Hey everyone, it's PJ.
And Jake.
This podcast is about alcohol.
And the consumption of alcohol.
Therefore, this show is not recommended for anyone under the legal drinking age.
We also encourage our listeners to always drink responsibly.
And never get behind the wheel of a vehicle while intoxicated.
And now, on to the show.
Welcome to the Boozatory. Class is now in session.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of the Boozatory. I'm Jake Brunig. I'm a comedian, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, PJ Wagner. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going, Jake?
It's going good. I fucked up a take, so we're going
Take
at
two.
it. You know, it's fun though. But yeah, we'll skip the fucking pleasantries. You guys know my life. I ate a Home Depot hot dog. It's all I do. You guys know this.
How's work been, though, man?
Work's good. I'm better at what I'm doing than I thought I was gonna be.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty great. Let's just kind of dive right into it. So, we're talking whiskey today. I'm very excited. Whiskey is one of my favorite spirits ever. I'm so happy. And I've got a cool guest. It's our first musician guest. It's Danny Cozzi from All the Wine. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you for take 2.
Take two. Take 2 is the best take so far. It's good. It's going well.
Feeling good about it. And you brought an amazing guest as well, PJ.
Yeah. Michael, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself here.
Michael Killmer from Fuse Spirits, Midwest regional manager, managing a little local whiskey distillery. We make some innovative gins, some world-class whiskeys. We're gonna have a few while we talk about whiskeys from around the country.
Yeah, it's about 7 years old, Few is, correct?
So Fuse Spirits, if you guys aren't familiar, it's locally based. So a little grain-to-glass distillery, born in a chop shop down an alley in Evanston, where we make, like I said, innovative gins. We make a breakfast gin that's out of this world. Bourbon rye. We just came out with a cool American whiskey that's vatted and built for flavor. So, you know, the craft distilling world, we've been around 7 years. We celebrated our 7th anniversary early September. So whiskey's only getting better. And
That breakfast gin's amazing. I actually have a cocktail that I do with it that I call English breakfast. I take the breakfast gin with lemon juice, and then I take some English breakfast tea or Earl Grey tea and infuse a syrup with that. It's like a gin tea sour.
That sounds delicious.
that product goes, well, bubbles or citrus or both. It just flies.
Oh, it's so
So you
good.
said you're not a gin drinker. So breakfast gin, besides being the most important gin of the day, it's juniper, Earl Grey breakfast tea, and lemon peel are botanicals. So
Nice.
invented and created by the folks up in Few, and it's awesome.
I mean,
Sounds good.
At this point, being 7 episodes and 2 takes in, I'm a drinker of everything.
I mean, technically, this is the 9th episode we've recorded.
Yeah, no,
we
I've lost
do
one
have one
before.
lost episode.
We didn't lose one. We didn't lose another one. So
Yeah.
I'm calling it a victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's kind of dive right in. In the first take, we tried the bourbon, and I do still want to touch on that because I know
You want to keep drinking? Really?
Oh, we'll get there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's
do another
drink.
bourbon
Well,
take.
we don't do that here, Jake.
We just talk about
yeah, we this is educational so people understand the dangers.
it. Okay, so what's in the first glass now?
What's dangerous about this one?
So what's dangerous about this one is, well, we had the Few bourbon to start off with, but Michael brought us something really nice. He brought us the Few single barrel bourbon. I'm going to kind of let you talk about what it means to be a single barrel.
You and your bar would come, select one barrel. We would have some down. You pull exactly the flavor profiles you want out of the delicious bourbon. You select it, and we bottle it solely for you, and you get every drop of that barrel. So single barrel is different nuances. 60% of the flavor of bourbon comes from the maturation, so there's different levels. It doesn't matter where they're sitting in the rack house or how many, age statements are a kind of a guideline of where you are, but there could be whiskeys sitting side by side in the rack house made 2 days apart, and one is super green and one is overripe. So single barrel is a way to bring the whole romantic look at bourbon and pick your favorite of the day and take it all home. So
And I just tried a little sip of it, and I'm a happy, happy boy.
That's
I
phenomenal.
see you're dancing in your chair over there a little bit.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I've actually had a few different of the single barrel expressions. I think we're all pretty familiar with a wonderful local bar known as Delilah's.
Mm-hmm.
Delilah's, yeah.
They
I
have
haven't been there in a long time.
They have some of their own whiskeys from you guys that are pretty solid.
Well, they have one with their name on it.
Yeah,
Delilah's 23.
Yep.
So they just 3 weeks ago was their
3 weeks they did
anniversary?
their 50th. Yeah.
25, right?
Oh, was it 25?
I think so.
I think it was 25.
25.
I think.
All right.
25 sounds.
It'll still
go
be
with
there.
So the few Delilah's edition was definitely for 23 because that was 23 barrels that Mike selected, bourbon, rye, and malt, and put it together at 100 proof for true Delilah's rock and roll American whiskey, and it's awesome. And if you guys haven't had it, the only place to get it is at Delilah's, and he's got it.
I had some in Naperville at Wild Tuna on Route 59.
I'm from Naperville.
Yeah,
I know that place.
They had a bottle there, and that's the first time they tried it. And so I was like, wow, that's really good. And they're like, yeah, Delilah's actually has like a lot of their own blends of whiskeys and things. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going there tonight. So I finished my meal and got in my car and drove from Naperville to Chicago and went to Delilah's and drank some more whiskey.
And then drove home.
No. I had my lovely, lovely girlfriend came and picked me up, and she drove me home. Then we got the car in the morning.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, and I'm already smelling again the vanilla hints. Right.
Vanilla, caramel.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, the beautiful oakiness to it. Well, that's an interesting thing because bourbon is definitely kind of classified by its sweetness as compared to other whiskeys because corn is naturally sweet. It's something people shouldn't be afraid of when we say that this bourbon is sweet. Well, that's a good thing. It's not like a flavored spirit where it's like, I'm gonna drink this coconut rum, and
it's like the black cherry, like Jim Beam.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not frosting flavored. It's not dingleberry vodka. I mean, it's just like, sweet has gotten a bad word because people were frosting cupcakes, and people don't like sweet, but sweet is not a bad thing. And think about sweet cornbread, it's all there. So.
I'm all about some cornbread. I'm from the South, man. I'll chow down some cornbread any day.
And it's an individuality thing. Like I've never had this whiskey before. In that everyone's kind of got their favorite brand. Like I've up till however long have been a Bullet fan. Danny, you're a Buffalo Trace guy.
Buffalo Trace to the day I die.
Yeah, so I love the individuality of each whiskey and what each of them offers.
Yeah.
And again, what I'm saying is like I've never tasted this. I haven't had this.
I think that's the cool part about American whiskey right now. They don't have to come from the same 5 distilleries in Kentucky, etc. They're coming from Chicago. They're coming from Texas. They're coming from Wyoming, California, New York.
We've got 5 whiskey distilleries in Illinois or something like that, or 5 people making larger distilleries making whiskey in Illinois. There's Whiskey Acres, Koval, Few, CH, Chicago, and
I'm sure there's others.
Yeah, I know.
Blonde Brothers is
Blonde
one
Brothers.
you'd be forgetting.
Yeah.
From my memory.
Yeah.
But so if you're listening at home and you've got a friend that thinks they're all fucking hoity-toity going, bourbon can only be made in Bourbon County, Kentucky, tell them to get fucking bent.
Yeah, well, partially because fucking Bourbon County doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it existed at one point, and the people of Kentucky declared it upon themselves that that's where you get bourbon from. And the people in Louisiana that were consuming 4 times as much bourbon as the people in Kentucky said, well, no.
Yeah.
Where you get bourbon is on Bourbon Street.
I mean, unknowingly, all the distillation and whiskey laws were enacted right after Prohibition, and none of them have changed.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how long they've been around. But
yeah,
a misnomer is definitely very, very strong. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I sell Chicago bourbon, and I hear it every
all the time.
day, and I have to explain the same thing. Today, we can be more light about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a wonderful thing to see all of these bourbons that are coming out being like, we are bourbon, not whiskey, it's bourbon.
Yeah.
And they'll be very bold about not being a Kentucky bourbon. And it's cool to see that because now you can do that. If you were doing that 10 years ago, it would be very difficult to sell that product because 10 years ago, people were even less educated than they are now about it. Like,
I mean, if you think about bourbon, there's tons of different styles, even if you just stick in Kentucky.
Oh, absolutely.
Your weeded bourbon, your rye bourbon, you can even do 4 grain.
Or you look at Maker's Mark uses 0 rye in their mash bill. And like that's kind of what separates them apart. And
Just for the folks at home, what do you mean when you say mash?
You want to take this one, Michael?
It's the first aspects of whiskey. You start with grains. So it's your recipe for your bread or your beer.
Okay.
You mash them together.
So it's just kind of your gump of everything in the vat.
Yeah, it's this your gumbo.
Okay. Cool.
You combine everything in a pot and you cook it down, and that's what you get.
Gotcha.
The mash bill is just your individual ingredients.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean,
That's good because I did not know what that meant, but I like knowing the word.
So
I just
basically,
didn't know what
it's
it
your
meant.
bread recipe. So it's your grains. So like a few. So like all our mash bills are 70, 20, 10, and we move them around for the grain profile we're looking for. Our bourbon, what we're drinking now, is 70 corn, 20 rye, 10 malted barley. And, we flip that with our rye. So you get different connotations. So you think about like if you're a rye bourbon, you're finishing with rye. If we made wheated bourbon in few, we would have 20% wheat. That's actually the grain base of our gin that we talked about. We make everything from grain at few. So it's kind of like the start of your roadmap. Like if you're reading a menu, like how's this bread put together? Like it's like when you're going to the sub stop and you're ordering a sandwich, what kind of bread you want it on? That's kind of the mash bill.
got it. Yeah.
I mean, you eat a sandwich
Makes
every day,
sense.
right? Or I mean, hot dogs, is that a sandwich? We're not
Yeah,
gonna go
Depot
there. We're not gonna
dogs.
go there.
That's
But I'm saying
that's a sticky situation.
that's kind of like that's what a mash bill is. I mean, I always bring it down to something you eat, something tangible.
Yeah, I only knew it as something that Corey Brandon sang about, but that's fine.
Sweet sour mash.
Yeah.
Sweet sour mash.
Hell yeah. We talked briefly in the first take about the differences and the nuances between American and bourbon and Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
And how, I reiterated, it's like, I drink them both for very different reasons. American and bourbon, I have a record on. It's a nice night. I'm just hanging.
Let me guess. Born in the USA, right?
He's listening to songs about turnpikes.
Yeah. Irish whiskey is when I want to pee outside.
Yeah, there's some property damage going on with Irish whiskey, and I think that's just because of like a connotation. People get this idea in their head that different alcohols make them act differently, and maybe it does. And maybe I'm just one of those people that I drink and I just stay kind of. They each affect me the same way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, you don't want me on Scotch.
I think
Danny's an asshole when he's on Scotch.
At least for me, I think that people have this connotation that if you drink Irish whiskey, you want to fight and destroy things, and that if you drink,
I think those people want to drink and fight things.
Exactly.
Destroy things anyways.
Right. Those are people.
That's their
that,
Friday night goal.
Yeah.
Like,
They
your
want.
and I Friday night goal is probably different.
Yeah, that guy
It's
was
like-
he was gonna throw hands drinking Pinnacle.
Right. The thing was, he's
whipped.
yeah.
So I mean, he's tough. I mean, he lives in his mom's basement. So I mean,
I'm just
he's
telling
going
you.
to take offense to everything.
Right.
If you come up to me in a bar and you've been drinking Pinnacle whipped all night and you want to fight me, the first thing I'm doing is laughing and then I'm walking away because you might be crazy. That's some guts to come up and fight somebody while drinking Pinnacle whipped.
I mean, yeah, you're drinking 60 proof vodka. Who cares? I mean, you don't care.
I just find me some fucking Wrigleyville dude just be like, oh man, I'm all hopped up on UV blue. I'm ready to jack some ass.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Right, who's that Brent? That's Brent in Wrigleyville.
Bryce.
Bryce. Yeah, no, it's Bryce. Bryce in Wrigleyville.
Chad.
Yeah.
Lots of Chads.
Always Chads.
And some Chads. Never have a run in with a Lincoln Park Trixie. Woof.
So let's
Or do.
Yeah,
Or do. Only on the Irish whiskey nights, though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, I think people use different alcohols to justify the way they act. I don't necessarily think that those alcohols make them act that way. Alcohol lowers your inhibitions, and
Speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding.
well, the thing about it is, like, those are your inhibitions. Those are, the things in your brain that say, yeah, it's probably a bad idea, don't do it. But the thing is, you had to have that idea first. It doesn't create.
It just
ideas.
it just pulls the filter out.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's all it is.
It's removes the filter and then it's just all impulse.
Right. That's why there's nothing that you'll do drinking whiskey that you wouldn't have thought about doing. Like you wouldn't have. That idea has to be generated by you as a person.
Oh yeah.
The alcohol didn't create that idea.
I mean, that's the mystical aspect of spirits, though. People say that your spirit is leaving your body while another one's entering when you're like blacked out or like on whatever you're drinking. So people use that as an excuse to do it.
Tequila gets its name from the 400 spirits of inebriation in Mexican lore. The agave plant, the 400 leaves of the agave plant are to represent the 400 children of the goddess that died to create agave. And so they say that when you drink it, one of those 400 spirits inhabits your body. And that's why you act differently on tequila. And that's where that whole myth of when I drink tequila, I change, I'm somebody else, is because of the mythology.
You're possessed.
It's definitely the lore of why we call it spirits.
Yeah, that's where they get their name.
Oh, no shit. That's awesome.
That's hardcore.
It is.
I just like to think of it's like, people who are like, tequila makes my pants come off. It's like, what's doing that? The ghost of a little boy.
He's just pantsing you, man. He just pants you. You're the one that decided to do something
bully
afterwards.
at school. Fucking bully.
Yeah. He was trying to give you a wedgie. You're the one that went commando.
Tis what it is. What's the next glass we got going?
Well, the next one's rye, and I think before we dive into rye, we need to talk about what makes bourbon and what makes rye, and just in general, like what are the classifiers for whiskey? Bourbon has to be 51% corn, and rye has to be 51% rye. They get their name from what the majority share in the glass is, and that majority share has to be more than the rest of the parts combined. So you can't have 50% corn and then 50% other grains. It has to be 51 or it's not bourbon.
Right.
It can be.
That's the legal line. So,
right. The very legal.
So over the years, this is my quick analogy. Is like we can make a whiskey 51% corn, 49% rye, same farmer, same distillery, etc. Flip the grains. 51% rye, 49% corn, same grains, same farmer, same distillery. One is legally a rye whiskey, one is legally a bourbon. We could all sit around this table and taste them. It'd be really, really hard to tell the difference. But the legal laws, check a box, and that's where you go.
Yep. When
you go into the mash bills, that's where you get into your recipe and those flavor profiles of finishing with with rye or with wheat or 4-grain, etc. So it's kind of the roadmap. But since Prohibition, there's been distinct laws of what bourbon and what rye is.
I'll say off the bat, it's a much more subtle smell.
In my opinion, rye has a much more aggressive taste. Rye is usually described as having like a spice on the side of the tongue.
Because you kind of turned me on to rye.
Right, because I felt it was something you would enjoy. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of rye. I prefer bourbon over rye.
Yeah, rye is a little too...
It's
there's too much heat to that for me.
There's some heat on it. I know you like your sourdough and your rye sandwiches. So
I mean, to me, I love rye whiskey. I think it's big, bold. It's full of flavor. It's spicy. It stands up. It's less sweet. It's less vanilla. Even the rock gut rye is I like because it's big, full fire on the front end, and it just
exactly. It's there's a burn to it. You get me on too much rye. Like, I'm going to be on a socialist tirade in 15 minutes. I'm going to be just organizing the revolution.
The best part is, I brought the few rye. You're going to have a few that are going to change your mind because this one's put together. There's a lot of people that say it drinks a little bit more like a bourbon than a rye. Just the way we put it together. 70%, so 70, 20, 10 at few. 70 rye, 20 corn, 10 malted barley. We use a French wine yeast for fermentation. So low and slow fermentation. The middle of this whiskey is sweet, plums, stone fruits, a little bit of cinnamon. I love the rye because it's a long finish. This is really sophisticated rye.
It's still lingering, I didn't...
It's like a big whiskey hug that hangs out for the longest. It's a whiskey that stays with you, and it's not like shooting fire.
It's a whiskey for the
really
winter,
sophisticated.
Yeah, to keep you warm.
To me, few rye is sweeter than the bourbon. To me, the bourbon is big and bold on the front end. It comes in screaming, and then it ends real quick and sweet and delicious.
Yeah, I do love the burn on this rye because I'm still feeling it in my gums.
The finish.
The finish.
You're not burning your mouth on a hot dog.
Yeah,
that's the finish.
Dogs, man.
That's a lovely finish.
What you should do is you should pair these with a Depot dog and see which goes best.
This one's getting Jardinera. Jardinera, some Sopressata.
There you go. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Keep our
a
Italians
lovely finish. My ex-wife was Finnish. That was the stupidest joke I've made on the show.
That might be the best thing I've ever heard you say.
You like my stupidest jokes.
I love your stupidest jokes.
That one's pretty dumb.
They're on my level of
I don't even
maturity
know. I
and
don't even get
intellect.
it.
So
He said his ex-wife was Finnish, like from Finland.
I get it, but it's,
Yeah, it's just not good.
it's just not funny.
I feel like that's the biggest cut on
I
a
think-
bad joke. I don't get it.
Yeah.
When
So
it's
I'll be
clear
taking
as day.
over. I'll be taking over for Jake going forward on these podcasts.
Yep.
He's out. He's
Just
out.
watch the buttons. On, off.
I'm fired. See you later.
Jake,
keep
would you
that last.
grab another round of drinks for everyone? We'll keep going with the podcast. Thanks.
Yeah, we're not gonna lock the door.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying with the stone fruit coming through in this. The sherry barrels. You said it was cherry or French?
No, we use the same Minnesota oak.
Okay.
Few Spirits were the #1 customer of the barrel mill in Avon, Minnesota. So we're using Minnesota oak, so a little tighter wood grain than 95% of the barrels in the world are coming from Kentucky or Missouri. So different latitude, different little wood grains, tightness of the wood grains. We toast the barrels first, and then char 3 allows us to access those wood sugars. I really think the way Few puts things together with their yeast strains and their mash bills, and the way we're really late in our tails cuts, it's built for flavor. It's unapologetic for making whiskey with full flavor, and the rye is just, it goes its own path. You know?
And full flavor is a great way to put it. Like I said in the first, these glasses are empty, but if I had a long enough tongue, I would Gene Simmons the fuck out of them.
So when you go back to the, you guys were bantering about why you don't like rye, because a lot of them kind of taste the same. So think about the rye whiskey tree trunk. They're, a lot of 95.5, 100% rye that kind of, taste very similar from the same family profile, and that's all right. They make some great stuff, but that mash bill is way different. I think, maybe us and Michter's are the only ones using that much, or that variety of corn.
Some are using
like 49% corn, but that's fine. But just the way you put it together, makes it more sophisticated.
So I think there's a little bit of information we need to kind of unpack in what you were talking about there with the barrels and the charring and things like that. Char 3 is a medium char. It's, I believe you said it's the industry standard kind of.
So about 45-second burn is kind of the industry standard. Like the char 4 would be a full minute. That's big and bold.
And then I think the last one's char 5, right? That's about as dark as you can get on a barrel without literally just burning the barrel to ashes.
So yeah, when you're charring it, what does that mean? Like physically, what are you doing?
You're literally holding a torch in the middle of the barrel and literally torching the barrel. You're charring
and it's on fire for that long a period.
Right.
Put it
Okay.
out with water.
So char it's char 1 to 5. Is that the general range?
So 0.
Oh, okay.
Think about like an engineer. So char 0 would mean it never touched fire.
Okay.
Char 1 is the least amount of fire, and then char 5 would be the most.
Gotcha. And char 3 is kind of like the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's the industry standard. That's what the majority of people do.
Yeah.
So for a visual, if you're camping and you have that big log at the end of the night that doesn't burn, you wake up in the morning and there's that one giant one that hasn't burned or it's still intact.
Mm-hmm.
The outside is this dusty black charcoal. The next is that really cool honeycomb kind of half burnt.
Yeah.
And then the white oak. So those are the 3 kind of profiles inside your barrel. So it depends how much of those layers with that char layer.
Yeah. Okay.
It's for a good analogy.
It's
like burning marshmallows and all that kind of stuff.
Let's talk about kind of the history of where charring the barrel came from. When they were shipping the barrels
What's
of
your
bourbon,
favorite story?
So the story that I've heard is that when they were sending barrels down to New Orleans, down the French Quarter, where they were consuming all of this whiskey, there was a lot of it was actually coming from Connecticut, Maine, New England area, and they ran out of barrels that were clean and ready to be used, so they repurposed a pickle barrel. And they were worried that the pickle brine, the vinegar, would affect the whiskey, so they burned it, and they put the whiskey in it. And at that time, the longer you age, the darker the whiskey would get.
Right.
And so you wanted darker whiskey because it was a sign of quality. If it wasn't dark, then that was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were sending it down, they put it in the charred barrel. And when it got to Bourbon Street and it got to New Orleans, they were crazy excited about it, and everyone loved it.
Because was it super dark by the time I got down there?
Way darker than anything they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And so immediately from a visual standpoint, they thought it was incredibly valuable, but they found they loved the taste of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That they found it had a better taste. People started charring the barrels because that's what New Orleans wanted. And New Orleans was consuming way more alcohol than anywhere else in the country at that point. And that's kind of how we got charred barrels.
I believe that because I've been on Bourbon Street on a Saturday night, and all the alcohol is there.
I mean, they've got drive-through daiquiri bars.
I've been there.
Awesome.
I've been to those. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
A wise man once said you ain't supposed to die on a Saturday night.
That's why
true.
you drink
That's
until
true.
past midnight. You die on Sunday.
Young boys, young girls.
But Sunday morning.
I don't know. I don't get hangovers, so Sunday
What?
mornings work
Oh,
pretty
whatever.
Hold on.
Bitch.
What? I think this should be the focus for the next few minutes. You don't get hangovers?
No,
I'm
I don't.
hungover right now.
I mean, Jake has seen me. I'll go out with our Serbian friends down the street, and I'll drink with them until 5 a.m. doing grappa and then vodka shots after that. Once the grappa runs out, a grappa is just it's like overproof brandy. It's European moonshine.
Mm-hmm.
It's super high proof grape alcohol.
Okay.
That's good hooch.
It's
Made off of grape skins, all the stuff you can't do anything with. They make the spirits off it.
Yeah.
They rip it up super high.
yeah. It's
So I would just probably lay this out here. In the next 10 days, you're gonna have a hangover. And we're all gonna be happy about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna be.
Throw a proclamation.
I'm gonna be
out there,
texting-
Like, I don't
No.
get hungover. Then one is coming.
Dude,
One is
when
walking behind you down the street, like I'm coming.
Dude, when it hits, I will make a social media post about it.
You better. I'm gonna
no,
be
like-
texting Jake every day. Make sure.
No, I mean I'll come
Get him
back
drunk.
5,
Get him
6
drunk,
a.m. Jake's been to a few events with me, where I always make sure we have a driver because if I go to these events, I know that I'm going to be drinking pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And the next morning, I'm up at 8 o'clock in the morning doing work, getting ready, to go.
What are you
And-
like? 22?
No, I will be 26 1 week from yesterday.
Hey, all right.
We'll
Happy
put-
early birthday.
We'll put a hangover in post.
Yeah, let's make that happen.
But so we have a third glass in front of us that I'm actually only going to taste because Dad's already toasty.
You say
I
that.
like how you
feeling-
keep us on pace with the tasting.
Yeah.
That is why you're here. I appreciate that.
That's why we're not kicking you out and locking the door.
Right.
So you say you're going to taste this. I think you're going to drink all of it.
Wow, that is a strong smell.
He's gonna Gene Simmons it, I guarantee.
Yeah. So
No one's
before-
using that glass ever again. Mark that thing.
Yeah, before I tell you what this is, what I will say is it made Forbes' list of top 5 whiskeys in America. It's doing a pretty solid job, and it's also the most affordable whiskey on that list by about $50.
God damn.
You can
Congratulations.
only get it here in Chicago, maybe a little
Yep.
bit in New York, but
First
You gotta ask real nice.
very distinct smell.
exactly.
Really strong smell. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not, I don't know. The
What does
smell
it remind you of?
I mean, a little bit like vodka, actually. Like, it smells like really just,
Well, I
it's
think
so
you're wrong.
abrasive to me. Maybe. Probably. I don't know shit about this kind of stuff.
No, I think it smells absolutely nothing like vodka. I think it smells a little bit more like a different kind of whiskey that you're not used to. For me, this kind of reminds me a little bit of like a very lightly peated scotch.
I think vodka just because it's just, the smell is so strong.
Open your mouth when you smell it.
Open my mouth when I smell it?
Yeah.
How hungover are you? Gonna throw up?
Yeah, I could. I probably could.
I mean, that'd be a first, right?
Yeah, so basically, when you smell spirits, you should open your mouth so that some of the alcohol gets absorbed by the mouth and doesn't burn your nose.
Okay. All right.
Your nasal passages are extremely sensitive to
Clearly,
alcohol.
because it's pretty.
so,
it's still
I mean,
lingering up there.
Well, we're also drinking this out of a wine glass, which is designed to kind of push everything directly into the nose. Definitely make sure you've got your mouth open when you smell this, because otherwise it's just going to burn. That's all you're going to smell.
Whenever you
Makes sense.
nose spirits, do not go in there and dice in it like you said. I mean, it's subtle, and you want to be to the side with your mouth open, because all you're going to get is fumes and not aroma.
Okay.
Right.
Because proof. I mean, that's the thing.
So with that knowledge, I rescind my statement about it smelling like vodka. It smells a lot better than vodka.
It is tasty though. I like it.
It is. It's not. There's not as sharp of
So
a
we
burn.
talked about mash bills. We talked about whiskeys. What do you guys think this is? Because this is something. This is brand new. It was released this month in Chicago. So a new whiskey in the Few stable.
This is a alcohol.
All right. Yeah, you're
Check
checking
one.
that
All right.
box
Well,
off.
you're not wrong, right?
You're
not
well,
wrong, you're
actually,
just an
he is
idiot.
wrong because it would be an alcohol, not a alcohol.
Oh, it's true. Shit,
So,
I studied
sorry,
English
Jake.
too. That's no good. I missed that.
I admitted Dad's toasty. All right.
We still got a cocktail to go, bud.
Yeah, I know.
Oh shit. Yep. I'm toasty myself. This is not good.
That's okay. We're grabbing food after this.
Oh yeah.
Thank God.
Anyway, yeah. So what's
It's whiskey. You're
Okay.
right. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yay?
You said it was whiskey. So
Mostly because it's the whiskey episode. It'd be
I was gonna say,
man, I should have
yeah.
thrown him a curveball and
What are
poured,
you
like,
doing?
The
Yeah.
coffee
What
gin.
are you throwing rum at me for?
So I was very fortunate enough to be able to bring this brand new spirit to the Few Spirits lineup, the whiskey lineup, because that's where Few is. You know, whiskey pays the bills, and it takes your bills and takes your bills and etc.
I'll happily hand my paycheck
so
off.
this
to
is
you guys.
I just make really good friends with people like you, so
Yeah,
I just pay for it.
exactly. So this is Few Spirit. We put, like I said, Chicago Spirit. We're unapologetic for flavor. We put Few American whiskey together because of its American profile. So we took Few Bourbon, Few Rye, and we took a very specialty single malt that we make at Few, which is 75% smoke with cherry wood and 25% rye grain. So vatted whiskey, built for flavor. I mean, this is a craft blend. You know, a lot of things.
That's interesting. Let's talk about blend for a little bit. Blended whiskey, because blended whiskey kind of got a bad rap for a while, and people need to shut the hell up because they're wrong. You can make incredibly wonderful blended whiskeys. As what we're having right now is technically a blended whiskey, and this is
whiskey.
phenomenal.
I see the word blended a lot in Irish and Scotch.
You see it a lot in Canadian whiskey too.
Yes.
Canadian whiskey is a rye forward blend typically. You know, a lot of times in
Land of-
bars, I don't carry Canadian whiskeys just because there's not enough demand for it.
Land of my people there, bud.
Well, when someone goes, hey, let me get a Canadian whiskey, or they're like, let me get Canadian Club, Crown Royal, whatever, I'm going to hand them a glass of rye and be like, well, you know, I got some rye. It's going to be kind of similar to what you're looking for, but a little bit more
There's
aggressive.
a thimble of this great whiskey in the whiskey that you like.
Yeah.
That's what Canadian whiskey is for me. It's,
Yeah,
it's all
absolutely.
neutral blender with a thimble full of rye whiskey for the flavor, which is
Yep.
fine because it's blended for flavor profile.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
so that's where we look at blended whiskey. You know,
It's all about
whiskey,
taste.
blended whiskey gets a bad rap because of what is out there and people like. Kessler, Smooth as Silk, blended whiskey.
Yep.
American Seven Crown, blended for that flavor profile. You know, these brands were invented in the 50s and 60s.
Jim
People are drinking
Beam.
with 7-Up, you know?
Jim Beam just released their first blended whiskey ever, Little Book, made by Booker Jr. And it's got, I think, like a 40-year Canadian whiskey in it.
God damn.
yeah,
Daddy
it's-
loves his Jim Beam.
Yeah, it's a little
Daddy loves
expensive,
Jim
but
Beam.
I was fortunate enough last week to go to a Beam Suntory event where they let me drink anything out of their portfolio that I wanted.
Jim Beam
And-
Black's kind of my go-to.
Jim Beam Black just won International Wine and Spirits Competition 2017. Best whiskey in America.
That's my go-to.
This whiskey got a gold there.
There
It
you
did.
go. That Jim Beam Black's my go-to airplane hooch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Same.
I know which airline you're from.
Oh yeah.
Because there's only one airline that has it. And it's not Delta.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Because
Southwest,
Delta's got
baby.
wild turkey.
Southwest. Southwest is best.
Yeah, so it's blended for flavor, and this is people like Beam, people like High West, people like Few. We're putting together craft whiskeys the way they should be, for flavor, to drink them with flavor. And this isn't Jim Bob at the Rack House accidentally dumped a barrel of bourbon and rye together and, you know, we're going to sell this. No, this is absolutely calculated at Few, and it's put together. To me, I think it's really cool. We're bringing American whiskey back. You can drink it however you want. And
Absolutely.
you know why? Like, that's...
Because
it rings more true today than ever. Then you
We-
should be supporting local.
we always talk about, you know, people like say America's the land of freedom and the land of choice, and you can kind of do what you want and do it your way.
Sure.
And, yeah. Yeah.
Let's
outside
pretend
views.
that's true.
Yeah, outside views, right? But you know, if that's the main concept, when you look at whiskey, people like to declare whiskey as the American spirit, even though it was made other places first, and that rum was made in America before whiskey was. But you know, there is a very strong American identity with whiskey, especially, you know, once you start talking about bourbon and other things. And what a blend does, it allows the whiskey maker to really kind of get in and fine tune and make exactly what they want to taste from different products. And they can design a taste exactly what they want.
Right.
It's kind of like with wine. With wine, the grape decides what your flavor is. And until you do blends, you don't really get to decide what your flavor in that
limiting
wine
factors.
is.
Now, if you make whiskey, you can put together a flavor profile you like. And this is new for me to drink. That's why I poured myself a little extra coming in here, because I'm still learning the nuances of this whiskey.
It's
but
wonderful.
to me, this whiskey is the best attributes of few bourbon. Big, bold, and spicy on the front. So it comes in big and American and spicy on your palate. And then it's got that finish of the rye that I love so much. It's that whiskey hug, that sophisticated long finish. And to me, that it's got whispers of that cherry smoke in the middle and a little bit of like a cinnamon graham cracker that holds those two whiskeys together. Mm-hmm. And it's just really complex and it's fun to drink.
For a nice little boozy s'more.
It's wonderful. So, with the more information on that, now when you guys have and taste it, what are you getting? What do you think? What are your opinions? You already finished yours. So.
Bold is
I think I need another. This is good.
Yeah, take me. Bold is the right word, I will say.
I'd say so too. Spicy for sure, but not to a point where that's the only thing that I'm tasting.
Right. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. There's like the burn on this it's really nice, and it's not overwhelming in any way. There's a bit of a kick, but then like the flavors kick in as it leaves. And that's my favorite thing about whiskey in general, so it's just, there's a lot of good things going on in this glass.
I would agree with that. And on that, I think we're going to take a quick break, make a cocktail, talk a little more about whiskey, and then we'll get a fun drinking story from Danny.
Awesome.
So yeah, we'll be right back.
Get cracking.
Hey team, fam, we're back. I got barred. They didn't make me a drink.
You can share some of mine.
I'll have a taste of it.
Go with mine.
No, we'll get there. But yeah, I got barred. That'll happen here and there.
I think as far as your bartender friends go, I've cut you off probably more times than anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's not that you drink too much. It's just that...
No, it's that I still have to edit this show.
Yeah. Because knowing you're going to want to do all the editing tonight in one go.
Yeah.
And
I'm a real hard worker.
Yeah, and if it's not good, then I have to tell you it's bad, and then we have to do it all over again.
No, I don't like that.
So we always make sure to give Jake plenty of water at the end of the podcast and some food.
Plus, I got to do laundry after this. You ever try to do drunk laundry?
Drunk laundry sucks.
Yeah.
Drunk laundry is awful. Sober laundry sucks. Actually, you know what?
Don't care so much.
Yeah, I'm going to take that back. I would rather do drunk laundry than sober laundry. That's my least favorite chore.
I'd rather do drunk laundry than drunk dishes.
See, drunk laundry.
I don't know. I'm good with drunk dishes.
I can't put away drunk laundry though. I can do it, but it just sits in a bag.
Well, here's the thing about the thing about laundry though, man, is that like the worst part is that we live on the third floor and laundry is in the basement. So
that's what I was getting at.
It's a lot of steps.
Right.
However, laundry is great because you just put it in there and then you walk away for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And then you move it 5 feet to the left.
Exactly.
And then you come back 30 minutes later.
And then if you're me, you forget about it for 6 hours. And you wake up at 2 a.m. like, fuck, it's still downstairs.
Throw a wet towel in there and put it back on dry.
Yeah, I've done that too many times.
So maybe that's what it is. I don't like drunk basement laundry and a third floor walk up.
That's probably it.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, drunk dishes is scary because 1, there's glass, 2, there's knives, and 3, you don't want to break anything. It's pretty difficult to break laundry.
Yeah,
that's true.
Plus, if I'm drunk, I don't want to wash dishes. I want to use dishes to eat chicken fingers.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Let's get some chicken fingers after this. I'm a little toasted. I could go for some chicken fingers.
Oh yeah.
Chicken fingers and pizza?
Ooh,
why not?
Baby.
Chicken fingers
I saw
on
a
pizza.
box of chicken in the fridge. How does anybody have leftovers from that place?
Yeah.
I'm not
That
gonna
place
give them
that
any
shall not be
props.
named.
I'm not gonna name it, but like, really, who just says, "Oh, I'll just save this one piece"?
Yeah, exactly.
You just power through, right?
Yeah. Spoiler alert: I've been staring at that one chicken tender in that box for over a week now. So someone should probably throw that away.
Anyway,
Roommate leftovers. I love it.
We have a cocktail in front of 3 of us.
Ha.
Hey, half this cocktail is yours.
It's in front of you. It's just out of arm's reach.
Yeah.
Right. What do we got, PJ?
All right, so we're drinking Manhattans. It's always difficult for me to not just make old fashions because I love making them. They're one of my favorite cocktails on the planet, and there's so many different ways to do them. And so I was like, you know what? We haven't done a Manhattan on the podcast yet, and we've already done 2 different old fashions. So,
And we've been friends for how long? And this cocktail has eluded me.
No, it hasn't.
Did? Fuck.
You've had almost this exact cocktail in Joliet, except the difference was in Joliet I smoked the cocktail over a barrel stave.
He smoked it too.
And instead of few, we were using Zachariah Harris, quality cheap whiskey.
Zachariah Harris.
Yeah, you want a fifth of whiskey or fifth of bourbon for $12? They got it.
God damn.
Yeah,
Sold.
that's like you can go to the store right now for $12 and buy yourself a fifth of it.
Be back in 45 minutes, guys.
Which we will actually talk about that brand on another episode that we're going to do later on. I'm going to pitch a future episode called Bottom Shelf Heroes, and it's about wonderfully cheap alcohol that's actually really good. So I know we've got a lot of fans out there that are like me and work in bars or are college students who are of age to purchase alcohol and aren't looking to spend a ton of money but still get some quality drinks.
I'm pretty sure that there's a whiskey sold exclusively at Aldi that just won like a bunch of awards, and it's among the most affordable
I'm gonna have to
bottles
look into
out
that
there.
because there's
Yeah.
an Aldi not far from here.
Yeah, well, okay, admittedly, I don't know if it's the European stores or the U.S. stores that it like is sold at, but apparently, like, I believe in you.
It's Aldi. If you ask really hard, they have to.
Is it European Aldi?
I think it might be a mall.
Oh, then
Probably.
if it's
Maybe,
the mall, then
you
I know
know.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, don't look at me as an authority on anything that we're talking
Since
about.
we're talking
here,
about
but
American
just-
whiskey,
yeah.
I'm just saying. I think
Yeah.
that's
So yeah, we're drinking the Manhattan. Manhattan dates back to the early 1870s. The drink originated at the Manhattan Club in New York City, where it gets its name from. Typically, a Manhattan is whiskey, bourbon or rye, typically, and then it is an ounce of vermouth. So you have it's 213 is the recipe. It's 2 ounces of your spirit, 1 ounce of vermouth, and then 3 dashes bitters, stirred, strained, and served 2 different ways, either on the rocks or up. So myself and Michael have ours up right now. You guys have yours on the rocks. Basically, I stir it so there's the exact amount of water that I want in the drink. I don't want any more water, and I don't want it to be super cold as I'm drinking it, because the colder something is, the less you taste of it. I really want to get in and taste all of this. And so I did a twist on the Manhattan. I did a black Manhattan today. So a black Manhattan is a blend of sweet vermouth and Amaro, or a bitter liqueur, which I used Bitter Truth's extra bitter liqueur with our Cinzano vermouth, and then I used the Fee Rye, or Few Rye, sorry, I was thinking Fee Brothers Bitters for a second.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna have a few Manhattans.
Hey.
Yeah.
We have a few tastes
Cha-cha-cha.
already. We're fine.
So yeah, we're pretty far into the whiskey episode at this point, but no, what's wonderful about this is I think that when you use a sweet or a red vermouth when you make a Manhattan, it can sometimes get a little overpoweringly sweet. So I like to make black Manhattans and use the bitter to cut it back down, especially using the Few Rye, which we use for this, which has a little bit of underlying sweetness to it already, outside of the rye spice that you get. So I think it's a really wonderful kind of bitter forward cocktail that still really features the wonderful notes in the rye. What do you guys think?
I should probably try it.
Right, Chase, go for it.
Yeah, go for
You
it.
go first.
Oh, that's delightful.
That's fucking good. Wow, that's really good.
Nice.
Sweet, but not like sugary. You know,
Right.
like it's got a great balance, and then it mixes well with like the burn of the liquor that's in there. It's really
It's
good.
interesting that this cocktail is so simple. Like 213. I don't know if I've heard it say that way, but it totally makes sense. It's like the 2 to 1. It's a cocktail that you can multiply. If we've got a whole party, you can dump a whole bottle.
That's
you
exactly
can
what
dump
I
a whole
did.
bottle of whiskey in a in a pitcher and a half bottle of vermouth and do the bitters, and you have a batched Manhattan.
Yeah.
I mean, the cocktail is very simple, but unfortunately it's messed up tremendously. I mean, there's still some excellent steakhouses in Chicago that if I don't tell them, they'll shake my Manhattan, and I will, like, you'll see a small tear. Like, when I see foam in my Manhattan, and like, he knows, like, when you shake a Manhattan, when you shake sweet vermouth, it looks
ruins
like
it.
Coca-Cola. Like, I don't know, it gets like foamy, right?
Yeah.
You can describe it better.
So what I'll talk about,
you make drinks.
Vermouth is wine, and it's an aromatic wine. And so the idea of shaking it came around, I believe, with the Mr. Boston's Guide after Prohibition. Like I said, this cocktail comes from the 1870s, way before Prohibition, where we were kind of in a heyday of alcohol knowledge and craft in America at that point, which we're just now getting back into, back to those same levels and exceeding where they were at, because a lot of that information was lost and destroyed. The Mr. Boston's Guide came out, and that's where you started seeing a lot of soda water used in cocktails, and a lot of shaking versus stirring.
Because they were selling the Boston Shaker.
Right, because they were selling the Boston Shaker.
I mean, the recipe predates Prohibition.
Right.
I mean, you think about the old fashioned, the definition of cocktail: high proof spirit, sugar, water, bitters. That's the definition of the word cocktail in the dictionary, and that's what he likes to make you guys. And it's a solid cocktail.
And I was gonna say, with the old fashioned, this is akin. I'm feeling similarities.
There are similarities,
but,
yeah. It's a whiskey spirit forward cocktail. The Manhattan wouldn't exist without the old fashioned. And what you'll notice, there's no cherries here. I don't do that. Don't get me wrong. Great cherries, great cocktail cherries, like a Luxardo Maraschino or even some Amarena cherries. Wonderful.
You can't go
cocktail
wrong.
finishes.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
But when I describe this cocktail recipe, you'll notice there's no cherry juice. It doesn't need to be any sweeter than it already is.
It really doesn't. I mean, I think anything more would just make it almost taste sugary.
Absolutely.
You know?
But that's where we get into the issue of the American palate. The American palate is defined by sugar. You know, we love sugar, we love salt. The rest of the world has a little bit more of a balanced palate where they enjoy a lot. Italians specifically love bitter. And that's kind of what I did is I took, if an Italian were to make a Manhattan, and to make it the way that would taste best to the Italian palate, I think a black Manhattan would be the way to do it, which is what we're drinking now. It's known as a black Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got this wonderful, wonderful black Manhattan in front of us, kind of balanced out the cocktail with the sweetness of it. And we were talking about being able to batch classic cocktails. Classic cocktails are classics because the recipes are fairly simple and straightforward, and they should be able to be executed at any quality bar. The reason why you want to stir this cocktail versus shake it is because vermouth is an aromatic, and it's wine. I don't want to necessarily call it herbaceous, but it loses the aromatic qualities when you shake it because it's delicate. So you want to stir it to kind of wake up those aromatics, or there's another method known as throwing, which is a very old school approach that's not been really seen that much in bars, where you pour from one shaker to another so that you're aerating the cocktail without diluting it, to kind of wake up the vermouth and give it a little bit more of a aromatic quality to it. So there's definitely like very important reasons for why this cocktail shouldn't be shaken. And if you enjoy your Manhattan shaken, then more power to you. Feel free to order it that way. But I would just stress that every bartender out there and every patron out there know that a Manhattan should be stirred.
Mike shaking his head like, also, don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, very simply, try one both ways. And us being so adamant about not shaking your Manhattan will be very clear.
Yeah.
I make my living off selling booze for 15 years. Life is short. Drink what you like. Drink how you like it.
Amen to that.
But I'm telling you, a shaken Manhattan is garbage.
Drink it if you like it, but you're drinking trash.
But if you like garbage,
I love garbage.
No, I used this analogy.
It's just not as good.
Working with my general manager last week, talking about there's a few brands that I refuse to carry. Or I should say there are a select number of brands. I don't want to associate the word few with brands that I do not carry, that I don't believe in. I don't believe their quality, and I believe that they are kind of putting product out there because they know it will sell even though it's not good.
Whereas I love garbage. You ever had a Home Depot hot dog?
But what I told him is, he was like, why don't we carry these brands? People are requesting. I was like, if someone walked in and they requested a turd sandwich, would you make it for them? Or do you have too much pride to do that?
What happened to the customer is always right.
Well, sometimes the customer is incredibly wrong. But I had to kind of take it to that level for him to understand why I don't carry those brands.
Totally.
And it's like, could we make them a turd sandwich? Sure, probably. But
I don't have to poop right now.
but is that something that as and he's a chef, and I was like, is that something that you would have faith in serving and telling someone that you made that for them?
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a couple brands that I don't carry because I don't believe in those brands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in their methods, and I don't believe in kind of what they do, even though those brands are ordered. There's better stuff out there, and I'd rather introduce people to something that I'm passionate about and I care about, and really show them why I like these other brands.
Totally.
Versus this specific brand.
Plus, we talked about individuality earlier, and I think that comes to life in cocktails as well.
Absolutely.
As you can say, like, yeah, I'll make, I've come up with this menu from scratch. This cocktail tastes best with this whiskey, this gin, whatever.
Myself and my lead bartenders are very specific about the spirits we use, and when I make a cocktail, I start with the spirit. I pick the spirit, and then I taste that, and I really get to know it, and then I want to expand out from there into other ingredients and see what plays well with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people, they start with, this is the flavor I want, and then they go for what spirit they're going to use for it. But I take a little different approach. I start with the spirit and I go from there.
Yeah.
But I have a couple bartenders where they're like, all right, this is how I want the drink to taste. This is the flavors I want. And then they find a spirit as like the last ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are hyper specific about what spirit it is to get that flavor because they've already balanced the rest of the cocktail.
Right.
So now they need a spirit that plays into that.
Mm-hmm.
And either method works, but it goes to show why some bartenders are so picky about the ingredients in the cocktail. If you'd like it with something else, I'll make it that way if that's how you prefer it. But you should probably try it this way first.
Right.
Because this is, we spent a lot of time developing this. It's like when you go to a high-end restaurant and you see the menu says, no substitutions. You can't really put that on a bar menu. But there's reasons why, and it's because the product we use is very specific because each product is different.
Yeah.
And if I tried to use, I'll go with big name brands. If you love Captain Morgan, but I balance the cocktail around Bacardi, then when I make it with Captain Morgan, it's not going to
be the same, right?
Yeah. It's going to taste way different, and the balance is going to be wrong.
Right.
Now, maybe that's how you like it, and that's okay if that's how you like it, but the cocktail was designed a specific way.
Right. Makes sense.
Sometimes brand loyalty doesn't inflect into a recipe. It doesn't matter if you know what this cut of cheese or whatever is on your plate. You have to let the bartender guide you to what's in the glass, and that's where people are getting to, and they need to trust. I mean, the Bacardi and Captain is a very good example, but think about like Few Breakfast Gin or Tanqueray.
Oh my God.
Like, you cannot sub those for nothing. I mean, those are they're both gins in the technical aspects.
Right.
Because we talked about technicalities here, but that's not something you sub. And it's not something you cannot say, you can't have a pork schnitzel and say like, oh, I eat, eggplant.
Yeah.
It's different.
And it's interesting that you bring it up because you've talked about in the past, you say now being so particular about ingredients, but that ingredients are something you try to get away from when actually selling the cocktail.
I do not like listing ingredients on a cocktail menu. For me, I think the best way to list the drink is what does it taste like? Because I use a lot of ingredients that the average person has no idea what those are. And it's because I've spent time studying those ingredients. I know what they taste like. I know how this is going to be. Let me just describe to you how it's going to taste. Let's talk about flavors. Let's forget about ingredients. When you tell your friends, oh, I went out and had this drink, you don't say what was in it. You tell them what it tasted like. So why wouldn't I just give you the way that I say it tastes so that when you describe it, it sells the way I want it to because you read exactly how I describe it.
Or if you have smart enough friends like Danny, I do use the ingredients, and he can pick the flavor out of that. And that, on the car right here, I was describing the Weston, which is a cocktail I have talked about multiple times on this podcast.
I can make it.
Ooh. But I described I listed the ingredients, and he went, "That's the smokiest thing I've ever heard."
We need to make some of those right now.
Yeah, we'll get on it.
But yeah, so Black Manhattan's whiskey. I think this was really fun to kind of dig into all these few spirits, and I'm very happy that you stopped by, Michael, and brought all these for us. And bringing your knowledge to the table is absolutely wonderful. Having someone on the podcast with the experience level you have is absolutely wonderful, and I'd definitely like to have you back soon for another follow-up episode, getting more specific on our whiskey.
Oh yeah, definitely. So thank you for coming, Michael. We appreciate it. We like to wrap up our episodes the same every time with a favorite drinking story from our artist guest, because we live a peppered lifestyle.
Oh yeah, to say the least.
Well, actually, before we get into the story, there is one other topic I want to kind of dig into, because we're going to do eventually an episode on this. As a musician, I'm a musician as well. We've both done kind of a lot of shows and traveling and tours and things like that.
Right.
Let's get your take on drinking on the road. How do you drink on the road?
Jeez, I try not to, honestly.
I don't drink before shows. I won't do it.
I will drink before and during my set, and then if I'm being smart and not already too buzzed to make good decisions, I just try to avoid it. I mean, sleeping on the road, as you probably know, it's fucking hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's a skill you have to learn to have.
Every moment of sleep you get is
it's
fucking
so
diamonds.
crucial. Oh my god. I mean, I try to drink just enough to
to sleep
to sleep. Seriously, yeah. I mean, I haven't been on super long tours. I don't know how my brain functions with weeks on the road, but I've been
I did a 300-day tours.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah,
oh my god, that's too much for me. I would probably die. I can do up to 5 days so far. That's what I'm working through. It's the tours I can take with the time off I have from my job. It's I get 4 or 5 days at a time, and that's what I usually go do. By the third or fourth day, I'm destroyed. It doesn't matter if I've been drinking a lot or not. Sleep is a difficult thing to do on a tour, and I feel that is as relevant to that question as drinking in general. Depending on the night and what the crowd is, how engaged the crowd is, will generally determine how much I drink. If the crowd is really not there, I'm fuck it, I'm drinking. Yeah, I got some discounted drinks or some free drinks, whatever. But yeah, I try to keep it in relative moderation.
Yeah, when I was on tour, I heard an interview with Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco, and he was talking about how when they did the Fairly Odd album, they were all just smoking a bunch of weed before the shows, and after that,
that's also how I sleep.
well, what he said is after that album, he realized that he can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
he's I won't drink, I won't smoke weed, I won't do anything before a show because these people paid to come and see me.
Totally.
And if I'm high or if I'm drunk, I'm not giving the best show I possibly could.
Right.
You have to realize, once you're at that level, that is your job, is to go out and give the best show you possibly can. And if you're drinking before it or if you're smoking before it, you're not performing at that level. And so that kind of opened my mind up to, how that relates to other areas of the bar industry or, even the podcast. I won't drink before the podcast. I got to be sharp on here. Sometimes you guys throw some questions at me that are hard.
Right.
That being said, I think if I saw a sober Keith Richards in concert, I'd feel gypped.
Yeah. True. I mean, I'm pretty sure that guy's blood is 45% THC at this point.
And among other things.
Yeah.
There's
Willie
not...
Nelson.
Oh, Willie Nelson, yeah. I just heard.
He's playing bars pretty regularly right now. To pay for his farm.
It's great.
No, Keith Richards' blood is 80% just plutonium at this point.
That dude's not even alive. He's not even he's dead, but all the substances in his body are just managing to push his physical body around. There's no way that dude's even alive.
Oh,
I don't even believe it.
Yeah, Fender is pumping him full of transfusions for every show. Fender won't let him die.
But
right, so
as I said, we love to get
right?
Yes, we love to get a story from our artist guest, so just a favorite one. Doesn't have to be a particularly good or bad.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to think if there's any like
drinking story for us?
I do. Like, there's nothing that's too. There's not a whole lot of debauchery in my drinking life, really. But
make it epic.
Yeah,
we don't want to hear
like,
bad stories. We want to hear epic stories.
You're a performer. Play it up. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. How can I sell this?
Play me out, Sam.
You know, there's nothing super like wild or crazy, but I guess my favorite story of my recent life, since this is a bourbon whiskey episode, this will fit it right in. So my roommate and I, this guy Dan, who I have been best friends with since high school for about 10 years now, we have had this like tradition every like 3 to 6 months where what we do is we take a whole day and we like just wander around the city of Chicago and just get hammered. We bring like a flask of some kind of whiskey or bourbon with us. So this particular day was back in March, and we bought a fifth of Buffalo Trace and filled up our flasks with it, and we grabbed breakfast and then just walked to Montrose Beach.
Just a little safety note here. The Boozatory podcast does not condone the consumption of alcohol in public unless you are in an area that promotes open container consumption.
Yes, which is exactly what we did every minute of that day. There was no illicit behavior as far as legality is concerned.
Never. Pack a flask for public transportation.
Yeah. We were only drinking the flasks in our own homes before we left our apartment.
Right.
And I just want that on the record. Because
it's
we would
actually
never.
Really wonderful how good Buffalo Trace tastes out of a tin container.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was kind of our game plan, you know. And so we wind up just hammered in on Buffalo Trace at Montrose Beach. And
which is like the go-to beach.
It's the best place. Like, it's my favorite place in the city of Chicago.
That's the one on the north side, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's in Uptown or something like that. But they have like
all my bartender friends tell me that's the one to go to.
It's great. I mean, like, you know, like North Beach is just fucking anarchy. I don't know what the hell's going on in North Beach.
Yeah, they say don't ever go to North Beach.
I have no interest in going there. Montrose Beach is like, it's a little more laid back and like you can just kind of hang out and chill, which is perfect. And so we wind up there after like just hours and hours of just drinking and walking around separately. So we're at Montrose Beach walking along the harbor, and all these raccoons start coming out of like the woodwork. And like, raccoons at Montrose Beach, for whatever reason, are really social. And they're coming up and like they're following me and Dan around. Like, we're walking down this harbor. And then we wind up in like in this park area, like leaving the beach. Like, it's like, I think it's like the entrance exit of the beach. And like, so I'm just sitting down in this little field, and there's some trees around, and behind you like a small like wooded area, and just raccoons just like by like the dozen are just coming out of the woods. And they're not aggressive, they're not attacking us, nothing. They're like cats and dogs just coming up and just like looking around and like kind of investigating our presence. And before I know it, I'm sitting in this little field surrounded by like 15 or 20 raccoons. I'm drunk off my ass, and all I'm doing is like calling them closer to me and like petting them and just like playing with them. And we're doing this for like 15 minutes, and Dan is like in and out of the picture. Like, I see him 1 second and I don't know where he went, and he's coming back in.
The raccoons keep taking him away.
Yeah, they're carrying him away, like, you know, trying to bring him back to wherever the hell they came from. And then like maybe 20 minutes into this experience, like this lady cop like shows up, and she like shines her light at us, and she calls us over, and she's just like, "What are you guys doing here? It's getting late. It's like 9 o'clock, and we're just like, oh, we're just hanging out, you know, just having a nice day at the park." And she just like
20 raccoons.
Yeah, they're all around me too. Like, they're following me up to the car, and she's like just so suspicious and confused, like, why the fuck there's this dude with 20 raccoons around him. And she just like looks at both of us in the eye and just goes, "Time to go home, boys." And so Dan and I look at each other, look back at her, and we're like, "Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, let's get out of here."
Dirtbag Snow White.
Trash pandas.
Dude, all you needed
go.
is like a 6-pack of Schlitz, and man, you would have been perfect.
Oh my God, it was great. I mean, we have so many videos of just like the raccoons just coming up and like just kind of like crawling up around me, and like none of them like bit me or scratched me or anything like that. So like nothing bad came from that story. But I woke up the next morning and I was like, I was just hanging out with raccoons like 12 hours ago. Where the fuck is my life? How is this a thing? How is this a situation I've gotten myself into where I like drunkenly was proud to be a raccoon whisperer and just hurting them along with me.
Like the Pied
Answer
Piper
equals
raccoon.
whiskey.
Exactly. Answer equals whiskey. God damn you, Buffalo Trace.
Beautiful.
Root and solution to all our problems.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stories you'd like to give us, Michael?
I can't compete with the trash band.
And that one, yeah, that's intense. Like camping.
Yes. And that'll about do it for us. Danny, where can people find the band?
You can find us all over. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, Bandcamp, SoundCloud. I just want as many people to hear the songs as possible, and we're in the studio right now working on our first full-length record, and it's I'm a notoriously slow songwriter and musician, like as far as just doing the work actually goes. So don't take this as like an authoritative answer, but the record should be out at some point next year, hopefully summer, fall. So, got like 9 or 10 new songs coming your way. So that's the goal.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
And Michael, where can folks find Few?
Few Spirits. You can find us all over the Chicagoland. Ask for us at all your bars.
And maybe even a couple bottles in New York too, right?
We're in over 40 states and 18 countries, so Few's not only local but very international.
I definitely had a bottle of the breakfast gin in Georgia.
Yeah, so you can find us all over. Prominent, we're in Chicago. Benny's, Whole Foods, your local liquor stores, we're all over, and your local bars as well.
Excellent.
If you guys want to ever visit the distillery, we're open for tours and tasting. We're 918 Chicago Avenue, Chicago and Main Street, right off the Purple Line and Metro Station. There's a couple breweries right across the street, so it's more local.
And
Sounds
just like
great.
always, I want to push all of our listeners and followers to go out and really, learn more about the industry and the alcohol, and go do these tours. They're wonderful. You get to drink the whole time. It's great.
What else do you need? What other reason do you need to go?
And you get to drink with the people who made it. That's awesome.
That's pretty dope. But as always, you guys can always find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at the Boozatory. And always, if you have questions, concerns about me, email us at theboozatory@gmail.com. I think that's going to do it. I think at the end of this episode, we're going to do a song from All the Wine. So enjoy that, and we will see you next time.